What is the true identity of the God statue in solo leveling? What is your name, your objective, your powers? So guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks the most about solo leveling on YouTube, and you're on my channel. One thing is certain, the statue of God that appears in the first episodes of solo leveling is already an iconic figure in the series, but let's understand a little about him, his origin, and his objectives. The being we are talking about is called Kandiaru, and is also known as Architect. He was the one who created the system, which is used by the protagonist, but let's understand one thing at a time. One thing that needs to be made clear is that the Architect is not the statue we see in the first episode. The statue is just a puppet. In fact, most of the statues we see in the first episode are just puppets controlled by Kandiaru's power. The real enemy is the statue in the shape of an angel that appears holding the divine commandments that are read by the protagonist in the second episode, but this statue does not even move during all the events of the second episode, removing any suspicion that the real enemy was that angelic figure. Kandiaru is a great sorcerer from the world of chaos, which is a cluster of dark dimensions from which monsters originate, and he comes from one of these many dimensions, and the beings from this world have a great affinity with mana and witchcraft. Kandiaru has always had a great obsession with immortality, even though he already had some different immortalities as he was a spiritual entity. The Architect was never satisfied with just that, and always aimed to obtain absolute immortality, and this was something that only the ruling entity of death could grant, which is why he offers help to Ashborn, the Shadow Monarch, who was looking for a human host to be his vessel, but was having no success finding. If you want to know more about who the Shadow Monarch is, his past and history, and all the context that explains why he is looking for a human, watch my video about the mythology of solo leveling, and everything that happened before the first episode, link in the cards. Ashborn was having great difficulty finding a host that could contain the power of death, so the sorcerer went to him, with the intention of offering his services and assistance. Kandiaru would help Ashborn find a perfect host, and in return Ashborn would give him his desired absolute immortality. After the deal was sealed, Kandiaru researched the human world and came up with the idea of developing the system, which would slowly shape the user's body, level by level, until it became suitable to contain the Shadow Monarch's power. But the Monio, why does the system look like a game interface? Does Kandiaru like to play RPG? The reason is that the system adapts, and takes the form that causes the user the most familiarity, and encourages them to always hunt monsters to progress, level up and become increasingly stronger. One thing that must be highlighted is that it was not the Architect who chose the human, he just used the system to select the humans, but the one who chose Sung Jin-woo was Shadow Monarch himself, and what we are seeing in the anime, it is Shadow Monarch's vessel becoming stronger and stronger, until he reaches the appropriate level to be used as the entity's vessel. But the Monio, what happened to Kandiaru? When Sung Jin-woo finally reached level 100, he was supposedly prepared to receive Ashborn's consciousness, and knowing this, Kandiaru sent a message to Sung Jin-woo through the system, inviting him to the place where it all began. Yes, the place is that dungeon from the first episode, which is actually not a dungeon, it's a place called Cardinal Temple, which is basically the place where the Architect resides, but where a protagonist gets there and discovers that the creator was actually the angel statue, Kandiaru places an emergency mission on the system, forcing Sung Jin-woo to face the temple statues, and then face the Architect himself, to prove himself worthy of receiving the Shadow Monarch's consciousness. Remembering that each of these statues is so powerful that he could defeat an S-level hunter with relative ease, and Sung Jin-woo had to fight several of them at the same time. But what Kandiaru didn't expect is that he and his statues would be defeated by Sung Jin-woo, so as a last resort, the Architect tries through the system to activate Shadow Monarch's consciousness in the protagonist's body, but something the Architect didn't expect happened. The Shadow Monarch refuses to take over Sung Jin-woo's body, for reasons previously unknown, and he also revokes the position of System Administrator, which was held by Kandiaru, and made Sung Jin-woo himself become the new moderator. Free from Kandiaru's control, Sung Jin-woo defeats Kandiaru's fake body, which before dying makes a prophecy saying that the protagonist would eventually have an inevitable death. But the Monio, if that was the fake body, is there a chance that Kandiaru is still alive? Yes, in fact the spin-off Solo Leveling Ragnarok, in which Kandiaru is alive several years in the future, but as this series is still being released we still don't have much information about his plans. But what we do know is that he experiments with beings alive and continues to seek immortality. But what about you? Did you already know the architect's entire purpose? Leave it in the comments, and if you like the video, subscribe to the channel to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.